Welcome back to The Manual, a podcast where we talk about the stuff most men's podcasts are too afraid to touch. Today's episode is going to be wild, raw, and real. Welcome back to The Manual. Today we're digging into a powerful tool that has transformed our physical discipline and spiritual clarity, and that is fasting. We're talking about that today because next week our whole community is going on a 72-hour fast. We'll provide a link in the description if you want to join us, if you're listening to this before that, or we try and do this every quarter, and we're going to talk about why as a rhythm of life that something like this is super important. We propose not just in journeying out of cravings in life, but for our whole human existence, body, mind, and spirit, why fasting is so essential. And we're going to use Jay Richard's awesome book, Eat, Fast, Feast, as the anchor for this conversation and really our perspective on why fasting is so valuable. For the purpose of our conversation today, to explore how food fasting isn't just about a spiritual discipline and practice, and it's not just about physical health. It's training your body, mind, and spirit to kill cravings, absolutely, but also to build resilience and restore intimacy with God.
Come on.
So, Nick, I'm curious to launch our conversation. Why does fasting show up in every major spiritual tradition?
First of all, I appreciate that you, it's funny, you said food fasting, and I feel like we even need to clarify that these days because people use the word fasting way too freaking liberally. It's like, oh, I'm fasting from social media. Oh, I'm fasting, and I get it. But words matter. You're abstaining. I'm fasting from sex. No, you're abstaining. Fasting, I propose, hot take, y'all, always has to do with food. It's not eating something. Or technically drinking something, I guess, but especially eating. And the reason for that, to answer your specific question there, Joe, of why does it show up in every spiritual tradition, is there is something about, well, even Paul calls it the God of our bellies, right? There's something about food that can kind of, I would even say, overdone. It's kind of like the forgotten sin, gluttony. Like, I don't know the last time I've confessed gluttony, to be honest. But it can kind of quench the spirit or stifle the spirit, and even just kind of make you overall just lethargic when overdone. But fasting can do the opposite. Certainly, we can say you can spiritually grow in a hunger for God, but there's really nothing like it when you experience an extended fast. And I don't do it consistently as I'd like. My goal is once a week to do it's a 23 and a half hour fast after dinner on 6 p.m. on Friday. And I know we've talked about this before, to 6 to 5:30 dinner on Thursday to Friday. But it just puts you in a position where you're just aware of your poverty. You're aware of your lack. You're aware of your, quote, humanity and your creatureliness, so what do you do with that? What do you do with the hunger? What do you do with the longing? What do you do with the craving, the discomfort, the ache? And then we're all about this. What do you do with it? Do you open up to it? Do you welcome it? Do you feel it? And then where do you turn? Who do you turn to in it? Do you look up? Do you put your head, what do you do with it? Because it reveals a lot. I mean, so many guys, I've been pinging a bunch of guys over the last 24 hours individually just to put them in my crosshairs. Like, group texts are fine, but I wouldn't invite you personally. So many guys have said like, oh, I'm already angry enough with my kids. I'm like, listen, man, don't blame your kids on your anger, but hunger will reveal stuff, right? It reveals a bunch. It reveals a bunch of crap underneath the hood. So, yeah, I mean, thousands of years of history, even before Christianity, certainly, of fasting and spiritual traditions, because it unlocks something. It reveals a lot, and it can, if you will, allow it to take you somewhere.
Yeah. Anything that creates that much resistance in us when we consider doing it is worth paying attention to. Like, why don't I want to? So much. And there's certainly just the physical aspect of that. Well, when I don't eat, I get hangry, or whatever. When I don't eat, I experience the desire to eat. Is certainly a part of it, but there's that kind of contending with our internals that just comes out of us. And that's why a practice like this can make dramatic progress, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, in other areas of my life that I have resistance towards giving up, or I struggle not giving myself to that specific thing, porn being an excellent example of that, where intentionally choosing to do something like this, like fasting, allows us to fully experience it, forces us to face the reality of our internal composition.
Yeah.
And it's real, and it's present, and it's there, to the point where, like you're checking the clock, counting the seconds. Can I keep going on a 15-minute basis, right? And it forces you, like you said, to choose, like, how do I engage this discomfort?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can become that clock checker, or can I transcend this? Can I find a reason? Can I find a why beyond just the white knuckling of, well, I just got to get through this, to the point where you look forward to the next one. And that's
Right.
for me has been I was always the guy during Lent who said, like, I'm too weak to fast. I cheat every Friday. I get to noon on lunch and I eat, and then become aware after I eat, oh shoot, I wasn't supposed to either eat that, like meat, for example. Oh, I wasn't supposed to eat that burger. Dang it, it's a Friday. I forgot about that. Which like genuinely I was consciously unaware, or like get to 3 p.m. and just like, I can't do this, and just give up. And to the point where I've surprised myself now, where I look forward to the next opportunity to do it. I really do. And part of that is being able to do it with other people. Like I love what we're building here, like a community of men who are doing this together, because the camaraderie and okay, I don't want to give up 24 hours in because others aren't. That is deeply motivating.
Yeah.
And encouraging and hearing other people's insights and perspectives and what's coming up in them, and both the challenge and difficulty of what they face, but also the breakthrough of like, oh my gosh, like my prayer this morning was so much more rich, or I was so much more present with my kids, and that's the funny thing is, it's like, to that belief of, I'm sure one of these responses you got, that real response of like, I'm already angry enough. I don't need hunger to be able to make me angrier.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, when you get to hunger, you realize when you're in it, actually there's capacity I never knew I had before. Because I think many guys say like, well, I just, one of the impetuses for my anger is being hungry. I just get ornery and agitated. Okay, well, is it possible for you not to get that way? And something like this could actually create the conditions that for the rest of your life, hunger is no longer a integral part of your anger response.
Well, there's a mental game to it.
Totally.
Right? How are you thinking about it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to put a pin in one thing you said is and we've all experienced this, right? I didn't even realize it was Friday. I didn't even realize it. I just want to highlight that, because rhythms, liturgical seasons are important. Fresh starts are important. A rhythm of your life is important. Having every day that is just the same grind over and over and over is really not good for humanity. And just on a practical level, even outside the church, humans historically have lived in cycles of plenty and scarcity. Right, we've had plenty of food, and then we have barely any. And our bodies have learned and have adapted to that. And then just even within the church, like the part of the reason for fasting on Fridays is it's a reminder. Oh yeah, I mean, one is of the passion of Jesus, but it's like, this is a different day, and this is why in this fasting and then feasting, like, do you actually feast on Sundays to remind you resurrection? So like this, it kind of breaks the pattern a little bit, shocks the system consistently, which is really helpful, where modern life is flipped in it. It's just constant eating, zero fasting, and then there's the sad diet, right? The standard American diet. And the reason, like you said, like there is something to what you're saying of why you're like, I don't do that fasting thing. It can be actually really hard for a lot of people, because we have a crap diet. We feed on crap, and then within a couple hours we're hungry again. So there's even like a better way to do it. Really, more, I would say, like a godly way to eat. If you eat whole foods, God's food, really, it'll actually sustain you longer. I know I'm hitting on a few different things here, but I just wanted to point out that the pattern and the rhythm of feasting, not overdoing it, right, but enough of a feast, and then fasting can actually help you get into both physiologically, that rhythm's really good for you. We'll talk about some of the benefits of fasting, like crazy awesome physiological benefits, neurological benefits that are incredible. It's like the more science reveals about the human body, the more you're like, God is freaking awesome. Or like the churches has always taught us that this is good. Now we have a lot of quote evidence that maybe isn't necessary, but I really appreciate it. It's like, dang God, you're freaking awesome. You've told us to always do this. And now science reveals some of the other why. Yes, spiritually, but also physiologically and biologically. So
Yeah. No, you just brought up, I think, two of the biggest takeaways from the book Eat Fast Feast is we live in an abundancy environment. Food is always available.
yeah,
The fridge is always full. The pantry's always stocked.
yeah,
There is, for most of us, there's probably not many guys that will listen to this conversation who will say, I have genuinely been in an environment where I experienced food scarcity.
right,
And as a result, in a similar way, that technology, our phones, and
yeah,
all of the technology we have is built on taking up more of our attention.
yep,
It wins when it gains attention, right? Same thing with food. To your point about the sad, like, why is that the case? Well, there's some reality of like, well, we have to feed all these people. So how do we produce more in
sure,
order to carry the weight of the
yep,
population that we have? Well,
yep,
the population isn't growing anymore. That's not the case. So what is it? What are they doing in their market research in the popular brands that exist today? They're looking for how to get us to come back to it, right? And so food is designed the same way that screens are designed, which is to get our attention, to get us to consume more of it, right? And the
yep,
more we consume, the more money they make, right? The
yep,
more that we consume technology, the more money that they make through advertisements, et cetera. And that's the way the business works and operates. And so again, the reason to do it isn't simply to say, well, I'm going to be on my technology less or eat less crap because I want to stick it to the man, or I don't want to be a part of this system. But it's worth paying attention to. Like you said,
sure,
we live in this abundance reality, so we have to learn how to live in it and live in it well. And then the second thing is that he really strongly attacks is this idea or concept that fasting should only be good for your spirit, that it's
right,
about trying to kill your body, right? That it's and the reality is, when you look at the science, that the utter opposite is true, that your body and brain depend on periods of fasting to clean the garbage and the crap out of your system, right? And if we don't give that to ourselves, not only is our spirit becoming lethargic, but our bodies are becoming lethargic in their
right,
capacity to be able to perform well. So what's the proposition to you that are listening to this, of why fasting? Fundamentally, it's because you want to flourish. You want to become an integrated man. You want to learn how to do life well, to become the kind of man that is, your sort of dream outcome for the life that you want to live. And we propose that you don't get there unless fasting becomes a rhythm and routine in your life, because it reorders your desires, body under spirit. It's not about punishing your body, right? Again, it's trying to kill the flesh. It's about living prepared, right? And that spiritual
right,
preparedness for when Jesus comes again, or in our final moment, is about body, mind, and spirit. All of me wants to be ready for that moment, not just my spirit, because all of me was designed for Eden, and all of me wants to be ready when that moment comes. And then again, just to reiterate, because I think it bears repeating, that modern eating patterns train us to always be fed, to always be consuming, to always be filling, and never hungry. And that really, it is a perfect transition to, why is this important to cravings, to
yep,
addiction? Why
yep,
why is this so often, for guys that work with us to eliminate the craving for porn, an extremely helpful tool? Well, fundamentally, fasting is a potent tool, training tool for self-regulation, right? Because the hunger's there, and I have to learn how to command it rather than to let it command me, right? And when we're
You got to
not
feel it,
intentional,
name it, and welcome it. Right?
totally, when I'm not intentional about the way that I treat hunger drives me
Right.
rather than me driving it.
Totally.
And having to face hunger is super practical and tangible. Okay, how do I drive it? It doesn't become an excuse to treat other people like shit. It
Mm-hmm.
can't become an excuse to become underperforming in my work. It can't affect. I still have to show up. I still have to operate. I still
Yep.
have to learn how to live well. And in order how to live well when I'm in abundance, I need to learn how to live well in scarcity, in this
Yeah.
context with food.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we got a friend, Patrick Nevy with the Bro Apostles podcast. He recently wrote a blog on how basically he said porn isn't a lust problem, it's a gluttony problem. And he breaks into that. And so part of that is, so a lot of what we talk about in the Freedom Group, a lot of the muscles we're working and the systems at play are generic, meaning they apply generally to everything. And they feel different. Like a craving to act out to porn is different for a craving to have some peanut butter M&Ms, right? But they're very similar neurological neurochemicals at play, and then how we respond to them. And like I was just saying earlier, when I'm hungry, will I act on that or will I feel it and will I welcome the experience? Because we only ultimately act on I'll say it like this, any negative, and that's an interesting thing, any negative emotion, and that's something we attach negativity to an emotion, right? We only act on these, quote, negative emotions that we're unwilling to experience. And so if I'm unwilling to feel bored, I'm going to act out on that boredom and get out of it. Where Arthur Brooks says you need to be bored, because only in boredom will your default mode network come online and in the creative parts of your brain come online. But you need to. The world says don't ever be bored. We need to. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But if we're unwilling to, we'll act out. If I'm unwilling to be lonely, I'll flit around. If I'm unwilling to be hungry, I'll act out on it. But these are, again, just to highlight, these are, with fasting, it activates these generic systems in your body that train you for self-regulation and self-modulation and self-mastery for every part. It's a dopamine reset too, right? Where we're removing that constant hit, that constant drip throughout the day of the food, and particularly what kind of food you're having is going to certainly give you more dopamine hits and then drop you below baseline quicker than others, particularly highly processed food and ultra processed carbs. And that resets the same system triggered again by porn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was just having a conversation in a coaching call earlier today about the frustration of, I know who I want to be, and I still experience this tension or contention in me to just give it up, like to just stop trying to become that, and to be consumed by, in this case, acting out sexually, because it is immediately gratifying.
yeah.
Right. And delayed gratification, my training ground for the concept of delayed gratification goes back to my mother when I was a child. Those were words I heard often.
Yep.
Right. There was a certain kind of tenor and conversation around, but I never learned how to deeply integrate that into my manhood, of how delayed gratification can be incredibly rewarding to me as a person, but like rewarding to my dopamine system. Like you said, that learning to even look forward to fasting is something that's happened not just in my spirit or in my mind, but in my physical brain, that I've experienced the benefits of it, the benefit of both the experience when I'm in it, of what it's doing to my body, mind, and spirit, and then the reward of what life is like after it. How much better I am at responding to other painful stimulus, other discomforts, other challenges that come up. Like, oh my gosh, what I couldn't do a year ago, all of a sudden I have the capacity to handle, right? And there's no other way to get there but to go through it at seasons of time that, like you said, provide that dopamine reset. that
Totally.
provide you the opportunity to delay your gratification for something. And ultimately, you know, any addiction or any craving that we have, anything that we're consistently like this, what we've been talking about, this abundance culture that we live in where we're never hungry, ultimately is us choosing willfully, you know, consciously or subconsciously for the pleasure now and the consequences later, versus flipping that and saying, you know what, I will choose the consequences now for the reward later, right? And if I understand the better I understand the reward of later, the more likely I am to willfully choose the consequences of the hunger today, right?
Right.
Which to a degree has to do with mindset, which I 1000% agree with, which I think is why I found this book so helpful, is because it lays the foundation for what are the real benefits. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit now, because
Yep.
I do think that matters. Like, if I deeply understand the benefit of fasting, it makes me want it more. And
Totally.
if it makes me want it more, it's more likely that it'll become a part of my life. So I'd love if you'd lay out some of the benefits, body, mind, and spirit, of fasting, so that we can more deeply consider that and put that out to maybe you listening have tremendous amounts of resistance
Yep.
because you think it'll hurt more, it'll do more harm than it will good for who you are and the life you have and the responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe some of that will shift in this
Yeah.
section of the conversation.
And I'll say this, and I'm guessing probably almost all, if not all of our listeners are male. That'd be sweet if some females were listening in. Share it with the dude in your life. But the men and women's bodies are different. We have constant drip of testosterone throughout the day. There's certain times of the month where it's more helpful for women to fast. These are really for men, I just want to say. So I just... but they also apply for women as well. So one, I do want to couch a couple of these in what you just said, some of the resistance. Like one guy said, "Oh man, I don't know. I feel I'll probably I'll lose some of my gains recently," and because he's been getting in the gym with me. And I said, "Dude, hey, fun fact. Okay, so within a 72-hour fast, you lose 0 muscle. Why? It depends on who it is, but between 24 and 40 hours into the fast, your HGH levels, your human growth hormone levels skyrocket. That's one of the reasons why you start feeling really good. Why does it do that? In order to preserve muscle. So up to 72 hours, you are going to lose 0 muscle, which is really helpful. What do you lose? One of the cool things is, so first there's two energy burning systems in the body, energy sources, carbs and fat, or glucose and ketones. Glucose, blood sugar, ketones is what your body turns fat into for energy. So most of us are running on glucose, blood sugar, carbohydrates used as energy source for your body. But once your body uses that up, your body gets into, a lot of you have heard of it, ketosis. What is ketosis? Is when your body, I just said, takes fat cells and converts them into ketones. Ketones, when they start getting released into your body, and it's usually around 40 hours, you get locked in. I described it as like this Adderall experience without the drug synthetic effect, where you have this focus, this clarity, and it's the brain benefits of fasting, where ketones are released in your brain, and you're locked in. And of course, that's going to affect everything. It's going to affect your work. Certainly, you're still hungry, but and they come in waves too, right? They come in waves. But you're going to be focused to work. You're going to be locked in. You're going to be present with people, and certainly with prayer, right? This is where body, soul, spirit all woven together. So you're going to show up at prayer more locked in, more present with God. Attention is at the heart of devotion. In this attention economy, attention is one of the greatest resources we have. It helps you if you're welcoming the hunger, and especially once you get into this place of ketosis, fasting helps you keep your attention. There's a lot of benefits. One of the other big ones is autophagy. Autophagy, it means auto, self. Phagy means eating, basically self-eating or self-consuming. So what does that mean? Ultimately, there are these denatured proteins or denatured cells in your body that never leave. Why? Because we're always filling ourselves with more. So it's kind of the image would be like a food pantry in your cabinet. You're taking out food, and before you get to the stuff in the back of the pantry, you're always filling up more food. You get more cans, you get more stuff. And so the stuff in the back that's stale, that's that is post expiration date, right? And it's getting bad. So these cells in your body, what they primarily cause long term are neurological diseases, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, even. And there's two things that get rid of these. One is high intensity interval training, like once or twice a week. That can help get rid of them, but so can an extended fast. Fasting removes basically they kind of eat each other, and they get rid of they your body is expels them out of your body. So long term, again, the brain benefits of fasting are incredible, and particularly with these neurological diseases through autophagy is super. I mean, that motivates me to get into it. What other benefits have you, Joe, either experienced personally or come to mind physically, spiritually, mentally, even emotionally and relationally?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones that I think practically is like that I think is worth pointing out is, I mean, generally you burn fat. Most of us that are
Yeah,
living a healthy, active lifestyle wouldn't mind losing an extra few pounds. That doing this as a part of a lifestyle is really helpful to be able to lose fat and then keep
yeah,
fat off of you. So losing brown fat this is really helpful for when your body and again, I mean, those two systems at play, like you said, one of them is incredibly undertrained and the other one is almost always active. The more that you do
right,
that, the more flexible your body becomes at switching into this fast burning
right,
mode. So the
right.
easier it gets. And I've experienced that over time where being in a fasted state, the more often I fast, the less hungry I get, the less preoccupied I am, the more, and it's not even just the matter of like, oh, I'm more in control, I'm more self-controlled. Well, your body is more in control of that deprivation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the first time you do it
Totally.
likely will be the least enjoyable it will ever be
Yeah,
to do it because your body is lagging in its capacity to be able to turn on in the fat burning mode and start providing some of those immediate benefits. And then, the long-term benefits, like you said, the other one that this is incredibly helpful for, I mean, 1 in 3 people in their life will get cancer. Like we live in an environment and that is incredibly toxic. The food that
yeah,
we're consuming, I once heard it said, if you don't choose to filter the food before it gets in you, you'll force your body to, right? And there's some things you can do in life. Certainly eating whole foods, eating a certain kind of diet can help support that, limit some of the stuff you'll consume, but a lot of that is going to get in whether you like it or not. So doing this is really, I think, in the world that we live in today versus say 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, it has almost become more essential, not less
totally,
essential,
totally.
because we have to choose to get our body into that hyperactive state of cleaning in order to help remove that stuff out of us. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, certainly I got very into, I mean, I had been doing this for about almost a year where fasting was a consistent part of my lifestyle. Not consistent's probably too big of a word. Where it was a priority for me,
Yeah,
but I didn't do it a whole lot. I wasn't doing it in a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual rhythm, which we'll talk about next. It was like, I like doing it whenever I do it. More sporadic, random. Certainly when we would do these fasts together as a group, I willfully participate in all of them. But I wasn't doing it just consistent as a part of a lifestyle.
sure.
Well, then my son got cancer, and all of a sudden it really started to matter to me. Not only for me, but my whole family, that if this is a way that we could prevent going through something like that again, I want to participate in that because not only, these denatured cells, well, a lot of those denatured cells are cancerous cells.
Right.
All of us have cancer cells
Right.
floating around in us. And like you said, there's only one of two ways to get rid of those and to fight them back. And certainly keeping your immune system online and active and dialed in is a huge part of that because that's the
Yep.
primary way that they keep cancer at bay from growing to the point where it now is overtaking an organ or a system of your body. But you can also keep them at bay in addition to your immune system through that process of what I like to call autophagy. I think it's more fun to say it that way.
Autophagy.
Yeah, autophagy. So I want to turn our attention to this. We're going to do this 72-hour fast, but it's couched for you and I, Nick, in which we propose to the guys that we work with as a way of life, as a rhythm of life. And this is the other thing that the book goes into great detail. We certainly encourage all of you to find it and read it for yourself, because I think it'll do it justice in a way that we won't be able to do in this context, is drawing us back to what was the original rhythm of eating, fasting, and feasting that the church has always embodied as part of the human lifestyle, and how do we get back to that?
Totally.
Right. I had a professor in college that says, as Catholics, he was a Catholic priest. He said, as Catholics, when we feast, we really feast. We pull out all the stops, and when we fast, we cheat.
100%. That's so good.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it was kind of tongue in cheek, but it was pointing to this what does it look like,
right,
as a proposal then to eat well, to fast well, and to feast well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
And if you start to look at, like, if you're Catholic or Christian, sort of the rhythms of life that your family has embodied for probably most of your life, the family you grew up in, and now the kind of things, the seasons, the changes of a season that you go through, that you start to notice, like, oh, there is this routine that I could just slide into with more commitment. So what does that look like on a weekly basis? On a weekly basis, that looks like Monday through Saturday is an opportunity to eat, save for Friday, to eat and to eat well. Right? And this book proposes the best way to eat well is to eat a keto diet, which works for some, but not everybody. I try and eat sort of a modified keto diet.
I'm keto light.
Yeah. So being able to figure out, I don't want to say what works for you, because there is a great deal of objectivity to it, but figuring out what's the best way to eat the majority of your time in your life that provides you with sustaining energy, was really good for your system, allows you to perform at peak capacity or potential, and when you fast, doesn't put you in this sort of intense craving spiral,
right,
is good evidence that the sort of macro proportions of what you consume are probably out of whack. So Monday through Thursday and then Saturday are eat days. Friday is a fast day. Nick, you said Thursday at 6 to Friday at 6, Thursday dinner time to Friday to dinner time is your weekly fast day, 24-hour fast. Right? And then Sunday is this day of celebration, this natural day of feasting. Well, normally for most of us, Sunday doesn't, we might have had a special family meal or whatever, but usually we just consume as much food and as good of food as we consume the rest of the week, right? And this could look like, like this is the day I have dessert, that was a thing in our family, is like Sunday is dessert day, right? And so that certainly could be a part of it. It's like there's an additional reward to Sunday that you do when you do this, what he calls a mini feast, right? That it isn't pulling out all the stops. It's not how much, how many plates of food can you fill. But there is still a discipline and a rhythm to it. But Sunday becomes that weekly feast day. On a monthly basis, it's pretty much the same thing, but the proposal is that you do one slightly longer fast, 36 or 48-hour fast within that month rhythm, which you could just tack on to then your Friday rhythm.
You just wouldn't have dinner. That would make it like a 36-hour, right?
Yep. So Nick, what changes then on the quarterly and then annual rhythm, especially as the church proposes in the liturgical calendar of how we naturally introduce this eat well, fast well, feast well mentality?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, the church piece is interesting because, like, the history of it, and depending on your faith, I mean, there's like the Daniel fast, which is like the 21-day fast, which is Old Testament. There's the Orthodox have their own. There's Ember days I've heard about. There's Lent. There's certain ways. There's like okay, this is just crazy. Technically, there's only two. This gets back to what you were saying earlier. When we fast, we cheat. There's only two fast days a year in the Catholic Church: Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And by fast, we say you can have two small meals a day that don't equal one meal and then one normal meal. also abstain from meat, which is that's kind of interesting too. What is meat? Is fish meat? Anyways, so that's what our fasting is. And then now you have to fast for an hour before communion, which you could probably be eating some Cheerios on the way to mass and probably still hit that hour. And so it's just. It's interesting. The reason for this, and I get it, is why certain limits were or while certain mandates were removed in the history of America, is because a lot of people were leaving Catholicism because they got in America, you got the worst jobs, and often the people were dying, and they were the factory jobs, and like all this whole history of even like Knights of Columbus got started because there were a lot of widows that are husbands, and Irish Catholics got the worst jobs and they were dying. So a lot of Catholics stopped becoming Catholic because they didn't have to fast. And so the church is like, shoot, okay, we're losing Catholics to the Protestant faith. Shout out to my Protestants. I got a lot of love for my Protestants out there. But the church, the Pope's like, we're losing a lot of Catholics in America to Protestants. Let's remove those extreme fasts. And so it might have been up to 24 hours before the Eucharist. It was at least midnight. I know that before the next day. So we remove those. And so we throw out the baby with the bathwater. So I appreciate the quarterly 72-hour fast. There's nothing liturgical about that, but annual fast, I'd be interested in doing a 5 or 7 day. I never have. I got a buddy who's joining us for the 72-hour next week, but starting on Sunday, he's going to do a 5 day. But just intentionally, like, I just really like what you're saying. We typically at our house, we only have dessert and it's ice cream every Saturday night. And then Sunday night as well. The girls get it. And they know it's the Lord's Day, which is really freaking cool. They're most excited about the Lord's Day because they get ice cream, which I think is pretty freaking cool. Yeah. It's a reminder, this is a celebration. This is something here that we're doing. But then for the obvious one is Lent, abstaining from certain foods and maybe even coffee, God willing, but mortify yourself without mortifying others. As St. Jose Maria says, if you're going to be a jerk, please drink your coffee. But then Holy Week is another good one. Man, as I'm thinking right now, Joe, maybe we do an extended fast during Holy Week, a little more than 72 hours. We did one last year for the Triduum, but an extended 72-hour fast. Let me ask you this as we transition. What are some pro tips? What have you found to where you were even talking about like having healthy fats in a keto diet? There's a way to make it work well for you, either entering into a fast, what can you do during a fast, and then even exiting out of a fast. What are some pro tips for our listeners?
Yeah, there's the pre-tips, and then there's the pro tips when you're in it, right? So the pre-tips is start earlier than the start of your fast day, right? We're fasting next Tuesday, December 2nd at 6 p.m. till Friday, December 5th at 6 p.m. If that's the first time you ever touch fasting in your life and you eat a standard American diet, it's probably going to be rough. It'll probably be a lot more challenging than somebody that started this way and primed themselves to be for their body to be ready for it when they do it. That doesn't mean it's impossible for you. It just means it's going to be harder. You're going to experience more of the latent benefits of it than you will some of the immediate benefits. So, starting with gradually walking into it, building that fasting muscle with an intermittent fast. That's what he lays out in his program, and I followed his 8-week program. I lost 45 pounds in 8 weeks following his program. Printed out his grocery list, followed the whole 8-week process, and it was transformational to do that. I haven't gone back and done that again, that 8-week program exactly as it's laid out since that time, but I've kept the weight off, and it's really encouraged me to then create the routine and discipline.
Yeah.
Again, on eating well, carrying what I put into my body, fasting well, and feasting well as a rhythm of life. So if you're not going to read the book, if you're not going to do his whole 8-week program, what do you do prior to? We'll start intermittent fasting, something like a 16-hour no eating window. That's basically where you skip breakfast and have maybe, afford you, even depending on when you eat dinner the night before, even an earlier lunch. And then you have an 8-hour eating window where you don't try to gorge yourself and get all the calories you would in a normal time period, but you eat your normal meals during that 8-hour window. So you can start with that. Again, it's allowing your body some time to be able to say, oh, this is new. I have to learn how to be hungry and to deal
Yep.
with hunger, and that fat burning system starts to come awake a little bit.
Yep.
Like, oh, we might be needed, right? So that's the first place to start. If you want to start this sort of at the smallest level, then you could do one meal a day. This is something like a 24, so 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating. And then there's your 24-hour fast, right? Then you get your 3-day, which we're doing, the 5-day, the 7-day, more extended fast. And you can build up there really by building in this cycle or rhythm. So Nick, your practical encouragement to guys that are coming with us this round is to do a couple of fasts and then to be additionally mindful of eating well prior to. So eating a fat-rich diet, limiting carbs and sugar, especially simple carbs. These are your cereals, oats, flours, etc., to be able to start priming your body of, hey, you're living in more of a fat environment, right? And a limited carb environment. Even then, when you're eating, your body needs to figure out how to burn fat as fuel. And that can become really important. Then when you're in it, what does that look like, right? My dad gave me this tip when he was learning how to fast during Lent, and a buddy of his told him, every time you experience hunger, just drink water and give yourself something. And that's been incredibly helpful for me is changing the hunger cue. Again, we experience these things and we subscribe really negative connotations towards it rather than like, oh, I'm hungry. My body probably could use a drink. And being able to reframe around that can be a really helpful way to be able to do that. When you're fasting, you want to drink as much water as you can possibly. It also helps flush out your system, your bowels, your intestines, your stomach, etc. So that's really helpful and practical to clear out your digestive system. And it provides the necessary hydration for your cells to continue to work at functioning. You don't want to go a long time without giving yourself the necessary hydration. That's when fasting could get bad for you. So we tell guys, drink as much water as you possibly can. Always have water with you during the day. Be drinking it frequently. Nick, I don't remember an exact like liter or gallon amount on that.
A gallon's good. I mean, because you're not doing carbohydrates, like you're going to lose a lot of weight, y'all. And also don't be discouraged because you're going to put it back on. The main weight you're losing initially right away is water because you don't have carbohydrates, right? Which carbohydrates hold water in your body. If you don't have those, you're going to, so definitely, I mean, I would say a gallon a day if you can. And just like you said, constantly be sipping it throughout the day.
Yeah. And so we encourage a no sugar, no carb or no calorie, rather electrolyte. In addition to the water, I try to do that twice a day, like morning and then evening is generally where I find myself needing it most, especially for the cognitive functioning. Yep. Those electrolytes and minerals are super. I mean, that's what your brain runs off of. Many of those electrolytes are the neurochemicals that your body requires to send the electrical signals through your neurons. So being able to replenish those can also be really helpful to be able to increase your cognitive functioning. And every cell of your body uses them, so that can be really important. I mean, doing this together, I would say, is another huge. I mean, it is just as important I've experienced as hydration and electrolytes.
Totally.
Being able to have the camaraderie of people that are
awesome.
Make it fun, make it enjoyable, make you look forward to the experience when you're not in it, and when you're in it, make it meaningful. And so certainly doing that with others, doing that with God, like you said, like using the attentive capacity you have in this state to not spend more attention on your screen and use it to spend more attention on God in His presence.
Mm-hmm.
Go for long walks. Get out in nature.
Yep.
Ground yourself. I know grounding can be a new age word, but ground yourself in reality. So remove the things that distract you from reality and live in the present moment.
Yeah. A couple more just practical pro tips, especially December. It's colder time of year. You will be cold. Notice that you're going to be cold. Why? You don't have fat in your body. So your body's going to be colder than normal. So what do? Might sound backwards, but cold water is really helpful. Cold water, quick cold shower. So if you don't do it that often, it's not that hard, but it's a little hard just to get in there. Do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks, get in the cold shower. Why? Thermogenesis. Your body wants to heat itself back up. It is going to be really helpful to do that, whether in the morning or the evening. If you work from home, do it over lunch. I remember one of the guys in the last chat, people were asking, what do I do? My fingers are so cold. We said that, and he's like, I did it. It was freaking awesome. I feel great right now. One, there's the dopamine release. It feels good, the endorphins, and the getting your body warm. The other piece is, okay, some people are like, what do I do with exercise? If you do consistently work out, which hopefully you do, but if you do, don't stop because you don't want your metabolism to shut down. Keep going. A couple pro tips there. Maybe don't do any super intense cardio. Maybe do a little more of just heavier lifting those days, and I'd go about 75% of what you typically would. So still get in there, still move, even for all 3 days. Again, you're not losing muscle. You're not losing muscle. In fact, the more you do work out, if you do a little bit of working out, you're going to get into ketosis quicker because your body's using that glucose quicker, and then you're just going to be burning fat in the gym.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, we're going to put the link to join the FAST chat, the FAST community, in the show notes. So go there. If it's after December 2nd or 6th, and you're listening to this, we use that same chat every single time that we fast together. So join it now so that you don't forget. You can join our email newsletter to be able to get notifications from us when we're going to do it again. Or if you're already in that community chat, we'll also start posting there again when we're getting ready for the next one. Again, our goal isn't just to do extreme things. It's choosing to do extreme things like a 3-day, 72-hour fast to train our body, our mind, and spirit to live well in the reality we find ourselves in and to have the capacity to engage it without needing to escape to make life manageable. That's the goal. And choosing something like this in seasons of time can be incredibly beneficial to doing that when you're not in that season. And so we're encouraging everybody to come with us. You know, there are medical issues. There are things, diabetes being a big one that can affect your capacity or whether or not it's even safe. We don't want you to be stupid. We want you to be smart and to live well in your specific reality. So this can act as our medical disclaimer, as well as our encouragement to you there are things that, I mean, you said the male-female difference, which I think is something to think about if there are women listening that want to make this more a part of their life. And for men, too, that might have particular medical situations or issues, talk to a doctor, talk to a healthcare professional, talk to one who understands the way that your body was actually created. I mean, there are medical professionals who lead people through extended fasts for their job, that people pay them to guide them through a 7, 10, 20-day fast. You can go to their websites, find tons of helpful information from them about when it is safe, if that's your reality or circumstance. And then for the rest of us buffoons that just don't like doing it because it's hard. Yeah, you're right. Life is hard. Learn to engage life and live in reality because it gets way less hard if you embrace it rather than fight or flee it. So if you want to eliminate cravings, fasting isn't optional. That's our proposition to you. It's essential. Not because God needs it, but because you do. He made you that way. Train your body, rewire your brain, and awaken your soul. We'll see you in the chat. Y'all, thanks so much for joining us today on the manual. Nick, any closing thoughts before we sign off?
I'm pumped, man. You brought it up with the brotherhood, the chatter, the chirping in the chat is probably one of my favorite parts about the fast. I love doing it with others. I just love doing hard things with others. And the cool thing about the fast is everyone can do it. It's such a mind game. Get in the freaking arena. So hopefully we'll see you guys there.
All right, y'all. That's it for us. Peace.